Hello and welcome to Thursday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, and today we're going to be attempting the brand new puzzle by Fistimofel. Fistimofel, of course, being one of the world's absolutely top tier setters. This one has 5 out of 5 difficulty rating on Logic Masters Germany, which is intimidating indeed, because basically whenever you do a Fistimofel puzzle, you are in the presence of genius, and he is about to show you how much cleverer he is than you. And 5 stars out of 5 is, well, you'll know better than me by the length of the video how much I have struggled to do this. But, well, the main thing is I hope I'll be able to do it. And that will be revealed, I guess, over the next 2 or 3 hours. Some news before that. We've released earlier on today on the channel the 2nd edition of the Cracking the Cryptic podcast, Chatting the Cryptic. Yes, we did record another episode, and we hope you all enjoy it. It will be available on things like Spotify and Apple Podcasts in due course. But if you want to listen to it immediately, it is there on the channel. Let us know what you think. Arrow Sudoku, our new app, is going great guns. Do have a go at that. There are many Fistimofel puzzles in our Arrow Sudoku app, some of which have been described as the greatest puzzle people have ever solved. So that gives you an idea of what to expect in that app. The other amazing news is about our Discord server, where Priambu Shan has been collating. Basically, it's like a PowerPoint pack to celebrate the fact that the Discord server has been in existence for a year. Now, believe it or not, that Discord server has 13,000 members now. That's 13,000 people who are really interested enough in puzzles that they've joined a Discord server dedicated to sort of solving and setting. I think it's just incredible. I did have it open in one of my browsers. Yes, here we go. This is it. So, this is, it's a pack. Look how many people, look how many setters have created sort of anniversary puzzles. 57 setters. It's quite incredible. And I was reading this last night, actually, because each of the setters has sort of put a little bit of a blurb about their personal history with the server and with Cracking the Cryptic, and some of it's quite moving stuff, I have to say. So just a huge thank you to everyone involved in this. It really is amazing. I will certainly be putting it up as a free post on Patreon. I can't put it up as a community post on the channel because for some reason it won't let us post PDFs, but I can certainly make it available on Patreon. So if anybody wants to try some of these puzzles, and why wouldn't you? I'm almost tempted to do one of them now. No, I'm not. Oh, look at that. Look, there's a 5, sort of a samurai by Sam there. Grockles. I mean, these are all names that we featured on the channel. Jovial, Larvaloid, Lichdesh, Mad Mahogany. I mean, good grief. Absolutely fantastic stuff. So I certainly commend that to you. Anyway, let's get on with Fistimofel. What are the rules? Normal Sudoku rules apply. Digits along an arrow, sum to the digit in that arrow's circle. So normal arrow rules, although immediately I'm seeing we've got short stubby arrows today. So just to reiterate what that means that whatever you put in this square, let's say that was a 2 and a 5, then in that arrow circle you would have to write a 7. There's 2 plus 5 equal, yep, you've guessed it, 7. That's how arrows work. Along thermometers, digits must increase from the bulb end. Yeah, you're right. We've also got short stubby thermometers as well. So what that means is that whatever you put in this bulb, let's say we put 2 in the bulb, this square here must be higher than a 2. So we have to move along the bulb or the thermometer, a bit like mercury would rise up a thermometer as it got hotter. So this would have to be higher than 2. Let's say it's 4. This has to be higher than 4. It could be 7, and that could be 9. And that's going to break this arrow here. I can see that, but that's just an example of how thermometers work. Do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video. Now I get to play. Let's get cracking. So how are we going to do this? We're going to look at what first? I haven't got a clue. I'm tempted. So just to tell you what I'm doing here, I'm scanning things like the fact that in row 2 and row 3, these cells have all got to be on arrows. and the minimum I could put in these squares would be 1, 2, 3, and then something. So, well, that's not going to work actually. 2. That's still not going to work. But I was thinking 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 in some order, and that would add up to 12. So I know that those circles have to add up to at least 12. This is absolute bobbins. It's not going to get us anywhere because these numbers are too small. What will you be hoping to get to is something like 24. If you could get that these had to add up to at least 24, you would be in clover because you could write 7, 8, and 9 in, and it would be happy days. But actually, there's some symmetry going on here I'm seeing now with the circles. These circles, if you twist the grid 90 degrees, they would sort of overlay onto those circles. Again, twist it round 90 degrees. These circles, twist it round 90 degrees again. Those circles. So there's something going on geometrically here. It may just be the pattern of the arrows. So let's remove these circles from thinking about those. What other circles are we left with? These two in the middle. Now column 4 I'm just noticing is a little bit interesting because column 4 has 6 arrow cells on it. So the minimum we could put into these squares would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, which add up to 21. That's a better total, isn't it? Now, unfortunately, the circles from which these arrows emanate are not all in the same row or column of the Sudoku or box of the Sudoku. So we can't say, it's 21 using 3 different digits. It's the sum of this one, that one, and that one. So these two can't be the same. That's absolutely hopeless, isn't it? That is absolutely hopeless. Because I'm even thinking now I could double 9, I could put 9s into those, for example, and that could still be a 3, and that would work. Now I can fill these with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and the sum will be correct. And the fact that you can put 9s in the circles and put a 3 in another of the circles is not really restricting them things at all. I am not persuaded that I'm going to write 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 into these circles, I'm afraid. So we've got to wait longer for our first pencil mark. Right. What else can we see here? I was about to say it could be the thermos, but I'm almost dismissive of it being the thermos because the thermos have so many degrees of freedom, it's not true. Let's just think about that though and check. So this could be, well, the lowest this could be would be 1. So the minimum those two cells on arrows could be is 2 plus 3. So this arrow here has to be at least 5. Which is the same as this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4 would be the minimum value of this square. 4 plus 1 would be 5 in this arrow. So these two arrows have some degree of restriction on them. Now this arrow, or this thermometer I should say, 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, this arrow's got to be at least equal to 5. I'm not actually sure you can put 1, 2 on this arrow, can you? 3, 4. Oh no, you could. You could have 3, 6, and 4, 5 with these two both being 9. Yeah, in fact, that's exactly the thing we were just looking at with a 3 here. So this can be 1, 2. Bobbins. Although if that is 1, 2, that is going to put slightly different pressure on this one, isn't it? 1, 2 here. You can't now put. You can't put a 2 on this one, so this would move up slightly. But you could still have 3, 4, 5, for example, there. 3, 4, 5. Yeah, you're not losing enough. We're not doing enough devastating damage with these thermos to force anything to be properly restricted. That is weird. I think I'm thinking about this all wrong. Let us do... What else can we do with arrows and thermos? Look for 1s and 9s. I'm getting desperate. 1s and 9s, where are they? Are there any restrictions? So, for example, in column 4, we can't put 9 ever on one of these 2-cell arrows, because then the circle would have to be a 2-digit number. So 9 is in one of 3 places in column 4. No. I think this column is by far the most restricted, actually. Yes, it is, because it's the only one where these sort of thermometers that break the symmetry, the 90-degree rotational symmetry, have an effect that's particularly powerful. I mean, those squares, actually, I suppose, there's 6 arrow cells in row 4, but this is no good, because this is 4 different arrows this affects. 1, 2, 3, 4, so we're not going to get a meaningful restriction in those circles. I am not doing very well at all here. One in the bottom row can't go in those squares because these would be the end of their thermometers, and you'd have to put 0 in the bulbs. You can't ever put 1 in these circles because you can't put halves in these. So can you put a 1 here, I suppose? If that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, that doesn't work. Right, okay, I have something. 1 is in one of those 3 squares in the bottom row, because 1 cannot be here. Why can't 1 be here? Well, it's because then the minimum I could put on these 6 arrow cells is 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and 7, which I know add up to 27 because I've learnt my triangular numbers, and I know 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 equals 28. So if I remove 1 from there, those 6 cells would equal a minimum of 27. Why can't these add up to 27? Well, because the only way of making their 3 circles work is going to be with 3 9s, and that's going to clash those 9s there, so that doesn't work. So this is not 1. Once this is not 1, 1 is over here, and that might be useful. Although it's probably on the arrow, isn't it? So that's no... Maybe it's not useful. Oh, good grief, come on, this is ridiculous. There's nothing in this puzzle at all to go on. I'm quickly going to get desperate here because I am not seeing anything. The last arrow puzzle I did by Fistemafel had some sort of set thing in it, didn't it? I had to use the fact that I could substitute circles for arrows in things. Is there a set thing going on here? That's a good question. The answer to that is not obviously, unless it uses the perimeter of the grid somehow, because I need to get the circles involved. Does this look any good to anybody? Hang on, before we go down a complete rabbit hole here. Yeah, okay, it might be worth looking at that. I've not got anything better to look at. Right, so we're going to have a quick look at that because I've noticed I can cancel out some things around the sides. So, what is set theory? Now, well, Fistemafel is sort of the person who invented set theory in a way with his Fistemafel ring. But what I want to do is not look at the Fistemafel ring. I think I want to look at the perimeter of the puzzle. So what I'm going to ask is some simple questions. What digits are we expecting to see in that row in the correct solution to this puzzle? and that's not a facetious question, this row should contain all of the digits from 1 to 9, once each. What do we expect to see in that row of the complete solution? Again, that's another set of the digits 1 to 9 in some order. We don't know what the order is. I don't care what the order is, but that's what I expect. Now, let's think about if I was to remove from one of those complete sets of the digits 1 to 9, I'm going to remove this and this digit from that set. So let's imagine that this was, I don't know, a 1 and this was a 2. They can't be the same digit. You can see they have to be different. So from one of those sets of the digits 1 to 9, I'm going to remove this digit and that digit. What digits will I be left with in that set if I do that? Well, hopefully, it's pretty obvious. I would be left with all of those digits, because this is obviously a complete set of the digits 1 to 9. So if I remove those two cells from my purples, then one of those sets of the digits 1 to 9 that I'm adjusting will be left with just those squares there. Let's get rid of the hypothetical digits if I can. There we go. Now, the other set of purples I've not meddled with yet. That still exists. Obviously those have now, I've removed these two from one of the purple sets of the digits 1 to 9, so they can change colour back to being white again. Now, the other set of the digits 1 to 9 that I haven't meddled with yet in the purples is still a complete set. Now from that set I want to remove those two digits. So if I do that, what digits will I be left with in that set of the digits 1 to 9? Well, obviously those squares. So we have an equivalence now. We know that the green squares contain exactly the same digits as the purple squares. Now, the reason I think this might be interesting is have a look at this. If we know that the green squares and the purple squares contain the same digits, then they must add up to the same number. And if they add up to the same number, I can start cancelling some things down. So this square is the sum of those two digits. So if I remove this square from the purple digits, I can remove those two squares from the green digits. And that goes all around the grid because of the symmetry. I can remove that one and that one. I can remove this one from purple, and if I do that, I must remove those from green to make sure. So we're in a position now where it's still true to say that the purple digits plus the green digits, purple digits equal, or the sum of the purple digits is equal to the sum of the green digits. Let's keep going. This and this must be equal, so let's get rid of that and that. Now, this is where it's probably going to be a complete waste of time because I haven't thought further than this when I was noticing the effect of the things around the edge. So what does this mean? Oh no. I can put this one in here, look. So that one, whatever this one is the same as those two. So let's delete that one and put it all in box 2 just to make it look neater. Yeah, okay, that might be a little bit interesting because I can do the same with this square. This square is the sum of those two squares. So if I delete this one, I can restore those two, and I've still got exactly the same relationship. Now, if that works for box 2, that must work for all of these sort of strings of 4 digits because of the symmetry. So that square is the same as those two. This square is the same as those two. So we're going to get an interesting pattern here. I'm not sure if it means anything, but I'm quite excited to see. That one comes out, is replaced by those two. That one comes out, and is replaced by those two. Now we've got a sort of crossroads pattern. So what we're saying at this point is that the purple digits, sum of all the purples is the same as the sum of all the greens. Now, does that mean? So if that's true, we can say those squares, the sum of, we know from the secret, and the secret of course is that the digits 1 to 9 add up to 45. So those squares plus those squares sum to 90. Same is true of box 2 and box 8. So if I deduct all of the green squares from 90, what I'll get is those squares, the sum of whatever these squares is. And the same will be true down there. Oh, I shouldn't have used blue probably. Let me use a different colour because that's the same as the thermos. Orange. So now the sum of the reds is equal to the sum of the oranges. Which means the sum of these three cells is the same as the sum of those three cells. And that cell is common to both of those sums. So now I'm saying, this is really getting quite interesting. The sum of those two squares is the same as the sum of these two squares. Now that is not something I ever realised was true. Hang on, let's just have a think about this. So the sum, I am running out of colours here. The sum of, I'm going to have to use greys, apologies. The sum of those two squares is the same as the sum of those two squares. That's absolutely hopeless, isn't it? I don't like those colours. Yellow. So yellow, the sum of yellow is the same as the sum of grey. Now, so grey can be represented as the sum of those two squares plus that one. Oh, I see. Ah, this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. If this is what you're meant to do to break into this puzzle, this is unbelievable. I thought this was a complete wild goose chase, but I don't think it is. Let me just think about this again, sorry. This is the same as those two plus that. So these three digits add up to the same number. Yeah, oh, this is just mesmerizing. Right. I think the point of all of this is that you can prove that these two squares have the same value. So let me try and illustrate why this is the case. I think hopefully we're happy with the fact that yellow plus yellow equal the two yellows, add them together, you get the value of the two greys added together. But the point is that you can represent the value of the yellows. This yellow square here, we know is actually those two squares. Actually, so maybe my colouring will work here. Okay, so we can represent yellow as these three squares. Now we can represent grey at the same time, because grey, this grey square is equal to those two squares. So let's delete that one and replace it with those two. Now look very carefully at what we've got here. Look very carefully. Because we've now, I don't like having the orange in here. That's putting me off. I'm going to get rid of the orange. Okay. So, because now we can see that these two are common to both grey and yellow. So they don't affect the, they're not accounting for they're in the sum, if you like. Whereas this cell and this cell are not common to yellow and grey. This one only belongs in grey, this one only belongs in yellow. So in order that the sum of the yellow and the sum of the grey is equal, this square and this square must be equal to one another. Now why does that matter? Well, this is what is so extraordinary. This thermometer is 4 cells long, and this thermometer is 4 cells long, but what we've effectively done is connected these thermometers together, because the thermometer now goes boop, 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 and it's now a 7-cell thermometer. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because if you know this square and this square are the same, the end of this thermometer is the same as the start of this thermometer. And I can now see this is a 4, 5. Because what's the minimum I can put in there? 1. What's the minimum I can put in there? 2. Minimum I can put in there is 3. So the minimum I can put in here is 4. So the minimum this square is 4. So the minimum this square is 5. Now, look at those 2 squares. They are on this circle. So how could they ever be higher than 4 plus 5, which equals 9? They cannot be. That's 4, that's 5, that's 9. We have digits. This is at least 6. This is at least 7. This is now not, it's not low. It's at least equal to 8. That's a 1 or a 2. This is a 6 or a 7. This is a 7 or an 8. Oh, and this thermometer is completely forced, because now we know that this is 4. We know that this can't be any lower than 4. So that's 4, 3, 2, 2, 1. And look at this. We're actually getting the puzzle done. This square is not 5 anymore. Oh, this square is 5 though, because it's summing 2 and 3. I think I'm going to get rid of the colours, because I think the colours are distracting me. Let's get rid of the colours, and you can see hopefully now this is a 2 plus a 3, so that's a 5. That's not 9, because there's a 9 here. And there's some more easy digits we can just write in here. Hopefully there are. I think I'm going to dream about this. I have a horrible feeling that I've missed some easy way of connecting these thermometers. I'm so sorry if there was a simple way. That way that way works, and it was very incredible to find it, but maybe there was another way I was meant to see that. But goodness me, the fact that these thermometers basically are, you can tie them together geometrically, it's just ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. 4 is in one of those squares. What do we do now? 9 in this box 2, can't ever be on an arrow. 9 can't be in those squares, so 9's a bit restricted. This square, look, can't be this square can't be 8, because that can't be a 4. So this square is a 2 or a 3. Now here's an interesting point about this arrow. This arrow, look, can't have 2, 3 or 4 on it. So if it didn't have a 1 on it, what would we put on it? It would have to be at least 5 plus 6, which adds up to 11, which we can't put in a circle. So there is a 1 on this arrow, and it can't go there. So that's a 1, which means 1 lives at the top of the grid in box 3. 5 now is definitely in one of those 2 cells in box 2, and 5 is therefore in one of those 3 squares in box 3. Now what do we do? Have we got anything? This arrow now can't have a 1 on it, so that's a minute. So this square is 6, 7 or 8, because once you can't put 1 on this arrow, its minimum value is 2 plus 3, but it actually can't be 2 plus 3 because that would make 5, and 5 isn't available. So it's at least adding up to 6, and it can't add up to as much as 9. So this is 6, 7, or 8. Right, so now I can write a 2 onto this arrow, because if there's no 2 on this arrow, how are we going to make it work? And the answer to that is with 3 plus 4 equals 7. So that's complete bobbins. I thought I could get rid of it. I thought I could fix a 2 onto this arrow. Oh no, I can because I can't put 3 and 4 here. Right, let's come back to this arrow. This arrow is useful, I think. Let's just do this slowly. If this is a 6, this is 2, 4, which would place a 2 here. If this is a 7, it can't be 1, 6 or 2, 5. It would have to be 3, 4, which it can't be. So it's actually just not 7 on the arrow, which I hadn't appreciated. If this is 8, how are we going to fill the arrow? We can't make it 1, 7 or 2, 5, so we have to make, or 3, 5, so we have to make it 2, 6. So whatever's going on this arrow, there's always a 2 on it, and that must go there. This square, though, it depends on the value of this one. So this square is 4 or 6, I think. Now there's a 2 at the top of the grid up there. Can that be a 3? The answer to that is maybe. I will put a 3 here. 4, 1. No, hang on. Let's look at row 1 of the grid. 1, 2, 3 and 4 in box 2 can't go in those squares, and they can't go in those squares either. So 1, 2, 3 and 4 must occupy those 4 squares, and that is a quadruple on the digits 1, 2, 3 and 4. That can't be 1 or 2. This I'm not sure we know about. We know there's a 1s and 2s in there. I now know this can't be as much as 8, because you can't make those 2 squares add up to 8. But I still think it can't be 5, so I think it can be 3, 4, can't be 5, 6, or 7, I think. Okay, that's no use. Let's have a look somewhere else. Where should we look now? We shall... I do not know where to look now. That can't be 7, actually. If that's 7, that's 3, 4, and that breaks that square, so that's not 7. If this is 3, you get 1, 2 here. 3, 1, 2, this would be a 4, that would be a 3. If this is 4, you've got to have 1, 3 on the arrow, and that would be a 2. And if this is 6, you have to have 2, 4 on the arrow, 3 and 1. Not sure. Okay, where should we look now? We shall have a look at 9s. Let's pick 9s. 9 here. Can't go on arrows, so 9 must be at the bottom of box 8. 9 is completely unrestricted, or almost completely unrestricted in box 7. 9 is interesting in box 9, because it cannot go there because of Sudoku, can't go on the bulb of a thermometer because you can't put 10 at the end of a thermometer, and it can't go on a 2-cell arrow. So 9 is locked out of 7 cells and must occupy a domino here, which means 9 is well, it's a bit better than I thought in box 8. It's got to be in one of those 3 cells. Okay. I thought that this would just fall apart now. I have to say it's definitely not doing that, is it? What am I missing here? Sorry about this. I'm sure I'm missing some. I have a horrible feeling I'm missing something very obvious, and that would be shocking. But it's probably true. 2, 3 is a little bit restricted in box 1. 4 doesn't have to be in one of those two squares, I don't think. Oh, 6 is always on the 6 is always on one of those two positions, because if that's a 6, that's a 4, and if that's not a 6, it's an 8, and that needs to be a 6. So there's a 6 in one of the... Ah, this is useful. So there's a 6 in one of those two positions in box 1. I haven't got a Scooby-Doo where the 6 goes in box 2, but I know it's definitely in row 1 or row 2. So where... Now we can rule 6 out of those squares. So there's a 6 in one of these 3 squares. There's no 6 there. I've now got a 1, 2, 3, 4 quadruple in box 3. These squares now have to be 7, 8 or 9 because they can't be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. What about this square? Is this restricted? A little bit. It's got to be 6, 7 or 8, I think. Because it can't be 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 or 9. So if that's 6, 7 or 8, this square has to be one different. That's 5, 6 or 7. No, I can keep going actually. 7 in row 1 is definitely in one of those 3 cells. So 7 is not here. And if 7 is not here, 8 is not here. And this is 6 or 7 now. I wonder if it's the same as that. Is it the same as that? No, well, it might be, but I don't think there's anything Sudoku-wise that's telling us that one way or the other. These squares must be 7, 8 or 9 now. There's some quite interesting Sudoku here, because we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 in those 7 cells, so these must be the others. Almost got a triple here now. Twos and threes. Come on, Simon. Can we do any more with this? That's the question. And the answer to that is I do not know. I really do not know. Come on. What else can we do? We can listen to the low-flying aeroplane buzzing past me. Maverick playing a visit to the area. Here's something. This 2, 3, 4, 5 is seeing this arrow. So this arrow is actually quite restricted. I hadn't spotted that. It's got to have a 1 on it, because if it doesn't, the minimum you could put on it would be 6 plus 7, and that would make this a 13. So this has got a 1 on it. That places a 1 in the middle. That 1 does diddly squat by the looks of things. What is this arrow then? This, yeah, hang on, this can't be a 9. So that's got to be... And we can't put 5 on the arrow. So this is really restricted. This can only be 7 or 8. So this is either 1, 6 or 1, 7. I don't know. 2 and 3 have to occupy 2 of those 3 squares in box 5. If we knew this was a 2 or a 3, we would know this would be a very small number because of this little stubby thermo. Ah, yeah, easy, right. This is not a 2-3 pair in box 5, because if this is a 2-3 pair, that's going to be a 1, and we're going to have the digits 1, 2, 3, and 4 in those 4 squares. Well, what are we putting on this arrow? We can't put 5 and 6 on it. That will make this 11. So this is not a 2-3 pair, and if this is not a 2-3 pair, this square is not a 2 or a 3, and now we have a 2-3 pair in this box. So, which means that square's a 1 or a 2 using the thermometer. These squares have got to be 6, 7, or 8. There's stuff going on here that I can't quite get my head round between these cells. These cells are tricky. Sorry, I'm just trying to think about this for a second, because one thing I can't do, I've got the same problem. If I ever make this square a 2, this square becomes a 1. And these squares still can't be 1, 2, 3, or 4. Because if this is a 2, this will be a 3, this will be a 2, and this will be a 1. And now look, I've got exactly the same problem as if this was a 1, 2, 3, 4 triple that we looked at before. This arrow still has to be 5 or 6. So that doesn't work. This square, I just don't think the square can be a 2. I think it has to be a 1. Which means 1 is locked into one of those 3 squares. Unfortunately, I don't think we do know it's this one. Oh, that's done nothing. Oh, it's given me a 1 at the bottom of the grid in row 9. Really? Has that really done absolutely diddly squat? I think it has. This arrow now... Ah, no. It's not bad for this square. So, what's the minimum I can put on this arrow now? It's not 2, 3, because 2, 3 on this arrow breaks this cell. So it's at least 2, 5, in fact. It's at least 2, 5, which adds up to 7. So this is a 7, 8, or a 9, which means those 2 squares are a 5, 6 pair. Which doesn't do anything. And there's sort of a virtual 2, 3 pair, because we definitely know whatever's not used here must be used on this arrow. So if this is a 2, you need a 3 on the arrow, otherwise you're going up to 5 and 6 land again, and vice versa. So there's a virtual 2, 3 pair in this row. Which I'm sure matters in some way, but I just don't quite see how. Dearie me, this is not an easy puzzle at all. Having said that, it's fascinating. It's classic Fistimofel, sort of making you feel stupid all the time. So, what do we now know about the safe state of the world, if anything? We know that... Do we know anything about that circle? We know it can't be 5, 6 or 7. That's not very much, is it? It's a 2-cell arrow, so it's 3, 4. It's not 5, 6 or 7. 3, 4, 8 or 9. Doesn't actually look that great, does it? If it was a 3 or a 4, you'd have a 3-4 pair in this column. Oh, hang on. There's definitely... If this is a 3 or a 4, there's... I can't remember. Why is this a 3 or a 4? Oh, I know why. It was because we got this 5 and the 6 up there. I hadn't focused on this, but there must be a 1 on this arrow here, because it's either 1, 2 or 1, 3. So there's no 4 on this arrow, and there is a 1 on it, so there's no 1 on this arrow. So if this is 3 or 4, this is always 2. So the only way that works, that rules 3 out of this arrow. So the only way this works is with 3 here, 4 here, 2, 1, 3. And then that could be a 4. That's annoying, isn't it? Because I don't think that's good enough to... what you can do is rule 3 out from this square. I suppose that's the only deduction I'm seeing. If this is 3, this becomes a 4, and then needs a 1, 3 on the arrow, which would duplicate the 3. So this square is a 2 or a 4. Okay. So, what else can we do? We need to do an awful lot more, I'm afraid. The other interesting thing is if that is 2, 3, 4, it puts a bit of pressure on this arrow, which would then have to have a 1 on it. But that's probably not very surprising. Okay, right. This is no use, is it? So, I really am not at all sure where I should be looking. 48 minutes, but I've made progress. So we've just got to keep thinking and try and spot something of value here. What is it? Let's see next. I don't know is the answer. I really don't. Can I restrict this square at all? Not obviously, at least not obviously to me. If this is 7, you'd have to go 2, 5 on the arrow. If it's 8, you could go 2, 6 or 3, 5 on the arrow. No, it's no use. What about 2s in this box? 2 has to be in one of 3 places. If... Oh, can I do something with this and maybe these? Ah, hang on, this can't be a 9. This might be interesting, this arrow. What? Yeah, look at this arrow. This arrow can't be, the minimum it can be is 2, 3. And it can't be 2, 3 because that'll break that square. So the minimum it can be is 2, 4, which means this is at least 6. Now it can't be 9, so this is 6, 7 or 8. Right, here is an interesting question. What is on this arrow? Is it possible this arrow contains no 2 and no 3? The answer is clearly no, because if it had no 2 and no 3, the minimum would be 4, 5, and that would require a 9 here. So there is a 2 or a 3 on this arrow. There's not both, because that breaks this square, but that means that there is a virtual 2, 3 pair in the row, which means this square cannot be a 2 and has to be a 1. QED. There we go, another deduction. That gets me a 1 at the top of the grid. Sorry, let me tidy that up. Maybe I should highlight what these have got to be now, actually. What have we got? We've got 6, 7s, 8s and 9s into these squares. No, on the other hand, that just doesn't do anything. Okay. You can't make that a 4, can you? Because that would make that a 3 and that a 2, and you'd need a 2 on the arrow. 3, 8, 9 here. 3, 8, 9 requires this to be a 2, which is not possible now. Because if this is a 2, this is a 3, and that's a 4, 5 arrow, that is lovely. So I have managed to whittle this down. This square is now an 8 or a 9, which actually makes a pair in row 5. Oh, but it's less potent in column 9 because now I don't have the restriction that I thought I might have at the bottom of in this domino here, because I haven't got a 2, 3, 4 triple. This is an 8 or a 9, so this square is a 7 or an 8. And these squares have got to be 2, 3 and 4 to complete the row. And don't see what that's doing. This square is now interesting though, just from a Sudoku perspective. Whatever goes in this square, where do we put it in this box? This square won't be able to go in those squares by the power of Sudoku. We can't put itself on the arrow because we can't put 0 on the arrow with it. So if you put an 8 in here, you can't put 0, 8 on the arrow. So the only place in this box that square goes is there. They're the same digit. And therefore that's not a 9. So this is a 7 or 8 pair. Well, it's not a 7, 8 pair. That's a completely misleading thing to say. These digits are the same. They're either both 7 or they're both 8. Right, now we can perform... Now I'm going to show you something that's actually intelligent. Right, look at this domino. That is a red plus a 1, and it equals something that goes in that square. Now, what would happen if this was a red plus a 1? Well, it would equal the same number, and you'd get the same number in both of those squares. So that's not right. This square is not the same as this square. These are different digits. Now, why do I think this is interesting? Well, look, I've now got red here and purple here. So any cell in this puzzle that sees red and purple cannot be a 7 or an 8. That square is now a 9 because it sees purple and red. That is a 9. That's lovely. I mean, again, if that's what's required to solve the puzzle, though, that is monstrously hard. Now look. That seems to have to be a 7 or an 8, and it's not red, so that's purple. So purple lives in one of these two cells, I think. I don't know if we know which one. Imagine if this was 9, though, we would then know that was purple. 9 is not there. Okay. So what's this 9 actually done? Oh, I suppose what it has done is it's locked 9 into it. This 9 and this 9 combined, there's a 9 in one of those squares, so actually that's not good. I wanted the 9 to be here, but it's actually not, it's there. There's still an extra digit in the puzzle, for which I suppose we should be thankful. Why is there... Oh no, I see, it's in 2 places in box 8 and 2 places there, so we can't resolve that either. Wow, okay. So I know that this has got a 2 or a 3 on it. And it's adding up to 6, 7 or 8. I just really, again, I'm sort of struggling to know what I should be looking at here. If this arrow, if it doesn't have a 2 on it, it could be 3, 4, it could be 3, 5. That's not a problem. At least it's not a problem that I think I understand. This domino here is now a bit restricted depending on what that one is. Actually, it's incredibly restricted. If you put a 2 here, that has to be 3, 5 because it can't be 4. So if that's a 2, that's an 8. Right, that doesn't work. Good grief. Right, this cannot be 2 because if it is 2, you get double 9 in row 5, and that won't work. Why do you get double 9 in row 5? Well, it's not that easy to see, but basically it's a result of what this has to be, which is this has to be 3, 5, because nothing else will give us a valid total here. So this is forcing this to be 8. Now if this is 8, this obviously is 9. But the problem is that this now has become a 6, and if that's a 6, that's a 7, that's an 8 on our thermometer, and this is 9 as well. So you get double 9 in row 5. This is not a 2. And again, there may be any number of things that are more simple than that I'm missing here, but we're already nearly an hour into the video. So if I find something, I'm going to take it if you don't mind. That's a 7. Now just adding up this arrow, look. So now we can get rid of those squares. That's not 7 anymore at the top. This square's now become a 2. That's going to force a 3 onto this arrow, I'm sure. Let's just see what else we can get, though, first. There's definitely a 2 in this domino. There's definitely a 2 on this domino as well. That's probably more important. If there's no 2 here, this would be 5, 6 and break this. So there's a 2 here. There's no 2 here. There's a 2 here. There's a 2 in one of those 3 cells. This 7 is giving us a 6 here. That doesn't force the thermo, unfortunately, so we can't resolve that. And is that where we get from this? This now has a 2 on it, so this is either 2, 5 or 2, 6. No, okay, that's still not done it, has it? 9 is definitely in this domino, in box 6. That doesn't do anything. Oh, nothing does anything. Oh, come on, Simon. This arrow down here now can't have 1 or 2 on it, so it's adding up to at least 7. And it can't be 9 because there's a 9 in one of those 2 squares. Wow, I've got a 7, 8 pair in the bottom row. So this circle now can't be 7, 8 or 9. And can it have a 1 on it? Oh, I don't know. Well, it's got to be 3, 4, 5 or 6 then. Which is... Oh, yes, in fact, look, it does have a 1 on it now. Once we got this 1, there's a 1 in one of these 3 cells, and you can't put 1 partially along a thermometer, so we can't put 0 in the bulb. So there's a 1 in one of those, and these squares are now 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Which is nearly interesting, but not quite. Oh, okay. Okay. This arrow, that can't have a 1 on it, so it's at least 5. And it can't be 9, so that square's 5, 6, 7, or 8. Oh, no, it's just not working. It's 1, 6. Oh, good. Right, okay. Well, there's something else we can do with this domino now. Now, if this domino contains a 6, the puzzle breaks. Because if this has a 6 on it, we know it's a 1-6 combination. So that's going to give us a 7 here. But look, that's going to force this to be a 6 and this to be a 5. And now look down this column. You've used the digits 1, 2, 5, and 6. So what are we putting on this arrow? Well, the only things that will work is a 3, 4 pair. What do 3 and 4 add up to? Yep, 7. So that will be double 7ing there, which is not going to work for us. So this is not 1-6, this is 1-7. And this is 8, I suppose. That's the corollary of that, which means this is 7, which means this is 3, 4, and we're away again. Maybe. That's no longer 3 or 4 into this square. We've now got... I'm sure we've got something. I just have to work out what it is. We've got... just monstrously hard. I'm so sorry if you're getting cross with me and I'm missing things right, left and centre here. I promise I am not trying to. Oh, look, now I've got a 6, 8, 9 triple there. Oh, a simple question is where does 7 go in row 1? There's only 1 space left for it to go. So let's put 7 in. Now that's nice because that fixes this square. That's now got to be 6 by the power of mathematics. Ooh, and that gets me an 8, 9 pair here. Which means I also get this digit. This 6 is... Ah, hang on, we might be away here. That gives me that one and that one. Does it do more than that? This 6 is giving me a 6 and an 8. Yes, it does. That gives me a 7 and a 7. Now, this arrow adds up to 8, so that must be 9, which means that's 8 and that's 8. Now, this must be 2, 6, which means these two squares... Oh, where does the 9 go? 9 goes here. This must... Oh, no, sorry, 9 doesn't go there. I've already got a 9 in the box. It helps if I delete my own pencil marks. That's 5 and 7, which I can still do, thank goodness. That's 7 and that's 5. This digit here now, that is a 9. Don't stop. Keep going. This 4 is giving me a 3 here. That gives me a 2 and a 4 and a 3. And now this square is now known. That's an 8. That gives me a 9. That gives me a 7. That gives me a 9. And that gives me an 8 and a 9. And that gives me a 9. And these two squares are a 2, 6 pair, I think. Which means I now, in theory at least, know that this one is a 5. And it looks like it's still working. Therefore, this is not 5. This thermo is now very delightful because this square has to be lower than 5 and can't be 1 or 2, so it's 3 or 4, which gives me a 3, 4 pair here, which this 2 in fact is doing the work, isn't it? 2, 6, 6, 5. And in this column, what am I lacking? I'm lacking an 8, which means that's no longer an 8. Now look, we've got a 1, 2, so this is a 3, 4 pair, which somehow isn't resolved, but never mind. That means this square is a 5. Therefore, this square is not 5 and it's not 8. How is this 3, 4 not resolved? Oh, that 3, 4 is also adding up to 7. So that's fixing that and that. That must be 2 and 4 to make it work. That must be 4 and 3 to make that work. There's no 2's in those squares anymore. I'm not going to say it actually. I was about to say something that would be imprudent, and I don't want to do that. I do just really want to get to the end of this puzzle and prove I can do it. Don't know what that can be now. I suppose we can eliminate it down though. 3, 4 and 6. So it's either 2 or 3, which it's not, so that's not 4. So this in fact is a 6. Maybe that's the simpler way of doing it. All of that gets fixed like that. This square should be a 5. This is a 3. This is a 4. And if I haven't made a mistake, that is the finished solution to this puzzle. Yes! Wow! Again, Fistimofel bamboozles Simon's brain. Absolutely bamboozled. That's really hard though, isn't it? Well, let me caveat that heavily. The trick that got this sort of virtual thermo is one of the most wonderful things I've ever seen in a Sudoku. If that is how you're meant to get into it, and I pray it is, I loved that. That is just superb. Mind you, I only did the set thing a sort of a bit of a desperate Hail Mary, because I had no clue how to make any progress with it without, trying some geometry. So that was lucky. Then after that, there were many, many difficult steps. It certainly didn't fall apart, and I felt like I didn't do too badly to spot some of the, well, especially this square being a 9 because of the 7s and the 8s paired there. That was beautiful. But it was very intricate. I felt like I was having to really dig deep into narrowing down the options on the arrows. There may well have been lots and lots of easier tricks I could have done. And apologies if you're hoarse with shouting at me as a result. But loved it, as ever. Proud that I got to the end. And we'll see you again later for another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.